Alright, so I guess we'll see what happens now that I've made some slight changes here. Looks like it's streaming. Sweet, so I'm just going to hang out here and attempt to get Module Federation running on these two Next servers. So I've already gone and done a couple things, of course. And I'm just going to pick up more or less where I left off here. Give him a name. And we'll just take it one at a time. See where it's going to fall over. Okay, I don't think I need async experiments on either of these. Yeah, go ahead and get rid of that. Yeah, alright, so that's configured correctly. I'm going to go ahead and just drop all of this. So, yeah, if it's pretty much on the server, I'll give it a public path. Let's just see if the app doesn't immediately begin crashing. Okay. Alright, so let's see. I just rebuilt it, and so far, no real critical error. Cool. So I'm pretty much just going to use this 3001 as my my host, and I really just want to pull something over here from 3000, yeah, from port 3000, which is my standing remote. So I've had some issues lately, so I'm going to stage through this very slowly and just see where in the pipeline it falls over and what our options are for fixing it. So if it is a server, so yeah, the one big thing you need to know about Next.js in this case is Next has got its own, pretty much sets up React as an external. So the first thing I need to try is, if it's a server, to not have Module Federation start sharing it. This is usually around where it falls over, so can work around it with, I think, like Jack did over here. I think he did it in the host. And I think he was able to get around it with something like an external. I don't know, I'll rummage around and find that later, but for now I'm just gonna continue on here and see what I can destroy. Cool, already an issue. Oh, okay, so I'm still using this this little wrapper that I created to try and tame the issue. Let's just go back to webpack. Let's see if I don't need that little tamer on there anymore. I'm not composing these, am I? No. Okay, cool. Module Federation plugin container as it is undefined. Fine. Okay. Looks like we're just gonna go and force it in. webpack, yada yada yada. And I'll just get container. There we are. I'll have to check if I actually overrode any of this correctly. The chances are I haven't. But what I will do is throw a log somewhere in here. See what it is feeding back. So I suppose. Hey Marius, is my audio and video and whatever working? Because like I honestly have no idea. Let's see, so I got webpack beta 20 installed. Yep, beta 20. Next. Yeah. All right. And wonder if it's because I'm doing workspaces. I bet you it is. So I'm just gonna wipe the workspace clean. And hopefully that will kick it off. So we can get rid of that as well. And then, yeah, see. And I'll try there. Cool. Just re-yarn it. I want to make sure that I don't have any scope problems coming into play here with trying to perform webpack overrides. Make sure each one has their own name. Don't actually know if I need this on the server builds, but I'm gonna use it anyway. And we'll just see if we get anywhere. And then for actually doing the server-side render, the whole plan is I'm going to tap into Next.1 over here, and I'm just going up into the file. And if this works, then, you know, shared volume or however else I decide to attach it's going to do the same thing. So I'm not really concerned with that. The only issue I'm really worried about is the sharing mechanism, because I can't get into Next easily unless I go, let's see, I'll have to jump into actual Next core. And where is Next hiding? There we are. So my main, it's not there. Oh yeah, I installed it in the wrong directory. Well, I'll clone it down again when or if I need it. Yeah, so the main issue that I've got is if I try to share React or something, even if I leave it as eager or whatever, it just doesn't take. But this could also be because I didn't actually configure it properly, because Next has as much things as possible as an external anyway. So I'm actually going to try cloning Next down just in case I do need it, because the chances are I'm going to need to make some change inside of it. Okay, let's see. Cool. Exists not an empty directory. And yeah, I'll let that start cloning while I rummage around in here. Let's see if this install finished. Perfect. Okay, cool. So I just logged this out. I want to see what version of Webpack's getting passed in. Usually they'll include a webpack version somewhere in here. Let's see if I'm getting overridden at all. Oh, I'm actually hooking directly into webpack. Okay. Oh, of course, because I might actually be importing it somewhere. Good enough. Let's see. Okay, yeah, well, it built, so I'm definitely on 5. Now, let's see what errors we actually run into here. Default export React. Yep. Okay, so the general problem. Now, what are the options for this? Import false, import false. That should make it an external. And I'm in dev mode, so I don't think that makes much of a difference. And I'm on partial hydration, yeah, so we'll see. Otherwise I might try to run this in serverless mode and see if it gets any further along. I'll actually configure the module federation plugin. If it's a server, I'll not import Next, which is correct. Yeah, that looks like a crash. Yeah. Yeah. And the error page always throws about it. Dev server, yep. Ah, the funs of this. Okay, so if I just don't share anything at all, let's see what it does. Now you can clear out that webpack value. Share it, it's just emptied. See if anything comes to life. Still getting errors thrown. Just in general, React is not a defined export. So let's see. Hey Matthew, you get to watch me just struggle aimlessly through through trying to make something happen here. Don't have any high hopes, because I definitely do not either. I'm just seeing what I might be able to do. See if I can get anything to work. I did have some luck the other day. I was doing like re-exports and stuff like that, but it wasn't really what I was going for. What I want is I want my full module federation to work on both ends of this, but it's definitely easier said than done. It's just because of how Next is built. If I can get an async boundary way up inside of the app, then I might have a little bit of luck, but without that async boundary, it does make things much harder to do. Yeah, see, still bails on Next server component. Default is not a page, but I'm not trying to default export anything. So yeah, see, this is pretty weird. Let's see, I have no remotes listed. Oh, I have a remote listed there, but I believe this is in Next 2, so let's collapse Next 1 and just see, am I doing anything I shouldn't be inside of Next 2? No, see, I marked it all out. Yeah, I marked everything out there. Okay, so let's try bringing back my old setup. Well, first, before we even get there, let's see if I just comment out the Module Federation plugin altogether. Let's see if this brings us back to life. And make sure I'm not returning my config earlier than I anticipate. Nope. Cool, no. Let's see. See, I don't get too many complaints. But still, I get this internal server error. It's really not liking a default export React component. It's not a page. You know what? I bet it's, I wonder if my output library is actually messing with it. Like, if I can only set the output library if it's in the browser environment. That might mess up the node side of it. I'm not 100% sure how it would, but we're going to find out. If I don't have any luck there, then I'm just going to do a full reset and go with what I had earlier yesterday, which is more messy, but at least I got the containers to somewhat build. I can debug it from there. Haha, okay. Alright, cool, so stupid library. Alright, awesome. So now let's go ahead and actually turn module federation back on. So that's one problem solved. I can try specifying my own error page, but I know that this problem's coming from way up higher, so it's kind of the catch-all that's going back. And even in the catch-all, like under this condition, I was trying to set the library out as next one, like in the server build, which I guess that, I mean, we can have a look at the config, so let me actually just enable the debugger on one of these guys. What is it? Node options inspect? I think it is. Hold on, I'm too lazy to remember. I've got it stored in Git. But you'll see the issue that crops up. Alright, let's see. Did I stash that anywhere? Damn. Alright, I'll have to rely on my local history. Is this next to? Yeah, it is next to, so I should be able to rewind it. Where are you? There we are, yeah, node options inspect, cool. So yeah, I'll pull up my inspector and we can see what happens. But pretty much like I'm trying to share something, like React pretty much, and it just throws the whole thing out of whack because I want an async boundary somewhere in here. So I'm trying to share something that, again, there's like two issues that come from it. The first issue is it's an external to start with, so I can't really share an external. And then the second issue, the one that we were just seeing, is because I was using the output config here. And if we go and actually console log website 2, yeah, we just console log the config. I'm betting that there's no output set, or it's something random, because I'm going for a target node here. There we go. Okay, let's see. What does it look like? Yeah, and where's our output? Output. Yeah, so see, I don't even include like oh wait, wrong one. There we go. Output library. Okay, so that must be the browser, which always runs first because the server needs to read from the browser. Yeah, so see, the library is just undefined by default. So by setting something, I'm obviously screwing around with something else inside of Next. So that's fine. At least they're both on the page, which is the important thing, and they're both running Webpack 5, which is an added bonus. So now where things pretty much go completely nuts is if I go in and actually federate something. So I've got like a whole giant hack going on at the moment to get this to work. We can have a look at it, but I pretty much have this require here, which kind of like it kind of like tells Webpack it needs to start doing something because it didn't catch it higher up the chain, and then I actually have the catch be handle federation, and by the time we get to the catch, Webpack's like pulled in the chunk that it needs, so the chunk's there, and it's actually able to follow through and require something to some degree. But as soon as I pop a hook in there, the whole thing blows up again. But yeah, this is ugly, but pretty much I'm doing like a partial hydration. So for the server, I use Webpack require and actually go get the reference that comes in, and then I do an await on the container, kind of like you would do a dynamic remote. And I kind of stitch it all back together, and this feeds back to Next import. And then if I'm in the browser, I'll just, use this old school one. It shouldn't be Next one though. It should actually be tapping the scope. Let's see if it'll work. Yeah, so I should be getting the scope like that. But anyway, let's just reboot it and go back into the actual page. So I've got remote title, which is fine. I lazy hydrate remote title with the actual Next dynamic inside of it. I'm going to turn off my Webpack log here just so that I don't pollute my my view space. Nope, okay. There you are. Cool, yeah, I don't want to see that unless I actually need to. Okay, so now if I do this, what usually will happen, yep. So if I do this, what's going to happen is it actually should server-side render a result. Well, let's see if I still have a hook in there. If I have a hook, it's going to just completely break. Dynamic is not defined. Wah, wah. Aha. And I'm going to jump into next one, and I'm going to check that my exposed title. Cool, all right, I'm not using a hook. So there we go, look at that. So now that's module federation, like stock standard, how we, well, almost stock standard, how we would expect it to be. You know, I'm getting this title, and I'm getting it inside of, you know, next to, and this is coming from next one. And if we go view the page source, I should be able to go next one, and you'll see I actually do server-side render it out. So yay, like, you know, it works. It's just ugly. And now let's introduce some hooks. This is the problem I'm currently dealing with. Use effect. And if I use a effect on here, any hook, it's gonna bomb on me because I don't have any sharing configured first. Well, let's make it an alert. So no, an alert might not like on the server. Okay, so if we do that, now I should get a big error. Actually, I should get them in both. There we go. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to attempt to solve this. I know if I just make it an external, everything works, but I don't particularly want to do that. I'd like to come up with something a little bit more refined, and I want to get rid of this giant monster, or at least reduce the level of complexity that I have to put in place here. So if I go back into Next, I'm going to leave that as it is. And for the share scope, I'm just going to try and focus on the server. If the client crashes, whatever. But I want to see if I can get the server to render it out without throwing its own error, which, I mean, currently it will. So if I just go to the page source, I just want to see if I can get next one to show up in here. All right, let's see what it complains about. Okay. If it works, I'll be very happy. All right, there we go. And I get a hook error. And this is coming from the other side where I have import false. Okay, so let's try which this is, I think this is further than I got before. Because typically if I share React at all, the thing just is done. Like, I don't even need to import anything. So that's already way better than the struggles I was having yesterday. So yeah, loadable's complaining, who cares? All right, so what I'm gonna do to just simplify my own debugging is I'm going to turn off the remote title, and I'm just gonna showcase what typically has been happening. So I turn that off, yeah, okay, cool. So here's the error that I run into that I'm busy battling. If I go into next, make sure I'm in next one. No, I need to be in next two. There we go. Okay, so if I'm in here, and let's just say I manually share something and I go React. Or, yeah, let's just do React for right now. Yeah, React. What key can I give it? I guess just React. All right, so if I do this, then what it's going to do is it's just going to bomb out immediately. So at least here I'm getting, you know, something. I don't get a 500 right away. But I think this will throw a 500 server error at me, or it should be even worse than that. 3001. Yeah, see, I'll get some lookup failures among other things. Yeah, so I get call, which that's a separate issue that I have to try and figure out. But inside of here, yeah, see, I'll get this kind of this lookup based problem. And that I'm leaving as it is, so it shouldn't actually cause any problems. But yeah, if I do React in here like that, or I think I can also go React, and it should introduce the same issue. I can go back here and just confirm I'm not doing any other imports or things such as that. Yeah, this is all pretty standard. So yeah, so what I should anticipate is for it to just break. And I'm starting 2 servers, so if you see like a mix of errors, that's why I start both of these systems up at the same time. But I kind of know what to look for in the one. Yeah, so that's manageable. I can live through that. Okay, there's a webpack issue, so that's fine. And now, if I try and load it, actually didn't give me any server error, so let's see if I can view the page source. Let's just try doing it. View source. Interesting. Okay, so that's slightly more encouraging. I wonder if it's the latest fix that helped resolve that. I bet it was. Okay, that's great. So this actually gets me further than I had anticipated earlier. So what we can try to do is just cause the real, like the true error of errors, and do a full-on normal import here. And I know this thing always fails, and you'll see another series of issues that comes from this. It's definitely been a tricky journey, but I'm thrilled that I do get something to render. At least now my server doesn't crash when I even touch the sharing config. I know this won't work or should not work fully, but it's much better than what I was getting before. All right, now I get my 500. fn is not a function. There we go. So that happens when the remote isn't loaded in time. And that's why we have some async boundaries usually. And part of the problem that I'm running into with this is if I go and look at, let's see if I go and look here, let's go look at the server output. And there we go. So I get the webpack runtime, and that's on a server, but I also get my remote entry. So my theory is that I need to require this as well from website 1. The only problem that I've got is I'm not 100% sure how to actually specify that importer with module federation. Like, because all I can do is pass in a singleton, or like a single, file like this. So I don't know if I don't think I can pass an array. So that does make it a little bit more tricky. But I definitely think that there are options that we've got at the disposal. So the first thing that I can try is going over here to module federation, and I think if I got the name of it, output library target, so if but I'm on a server build. Yeah, let's just see what happens if I get rid of this. I'm gonna go ahead and flush this out. So that's next one. I'm gonna get rid of that, which is gonna break the front end build, but it doesn't work anyway, so not really worried about it. But what I'm hoping to find is if I clear this, I still want to see my exposes be referenced inside that single runtime chunk. That's where most of the problem is that we're running into. Well, that's one of the problems that we've got is runtime chunk. All right, so if I can pack everything into this, let's see, do I even get container stuff in here? How about shared? Yeah, see, I get some share scope, but I don't get enough. And okay, so then it emits this next one asset. Now, what if I call it webpack runtime? Tobias told me about this a while ago, but I haven't actually tried it. Yeah, it's getting its name from next one, so either we can try that, but I think the client build is going to absolutely throw a fit. We'll see what it does. Yeah, just invalid. But I don't know if that means that it's completely invalid or if only the front end build is. Yeah, it looks like I need this front end build either way. So let's see, I guess we'll go is server if it's not server. Otherwise, we'll just say yeah, it really wants its name, which makes sense because I mean we have to call it something. Okay, so I'll give it its name, but the file theoretically, if module concatenation works, then I can reference what's it usually emit in the server? Webpack runtime. All right. So if a file's the same name, it'll do one of two things. It'll either work, or it's going to say that there's this multiple assets emitted. But there should be a way to combine them. And if it's combined, then I just take the runtime of one and I put it on the other, and it might point it. Yep, thank you, Anton. Definitely not expecting anything to come out of this other than everybody gets to watch me. If you want to ask questions not related to Next.js, feel free to, because I'm really just messing around here, seeing what happens. Okay, so of course it's not a chunk name, so but it could be a chunk name. I'll have to look that up in the stats afterwards. Let's see what it spits out. How can I grab my stats really easily? I don't want to spend a lot of time digging around. Should just be able to pull it off Webpack. Well, maybe. Can I tap through the config? Constructors available, I usually can. But let's just go through Webpack. Maybe there'll be a compilation attached to it. Just maybe. Okay, so first thing, let's look at the output, the server. I don't see a multiple assets error. All right, that's positive. Don't care about next two, next one. Of course, I don't see the rest of the build either. Actually, no, I did that. Wait, no, something's not. Something's not completely right. Let's just watch it closely. I'm in next one. Maybe my IDE is struggling. I don't see any critical error. Yeah, blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Okay, well, it spat that out. Rather interesting. What's in it? Webpack JSON P next one. This is the browser config, isn't it? Yeah, it is the browser config. I have my library target there. So it looks like it doesn't make it past the server build. And it gets really stuck. Alright, what about my logger info? Did I log anything useful? No, because I'm in Next too. Okay, so we know that it doesn't like that. Let's change it to remote entry again. And I'll go over here and here, and I'll actually just console log webpack out. We'll see what webpack shows up. Yeah, okay, cool. I cleaned it off the other side. And then we'll also see now if I changed it back to, you know, a cohesive file name, whether next one generates something useful. Yeah, okay, so now it gives me my server. And there, okay, okay. So I wonder if my build error is out because I don't call it the right name. All right, let's see, is server. If it is the server, we're going to call it what? It's a pity you can't name configurations. I always thought that you should be able to. I'm trying to drill into webpack here. And of course it's, yeah, let's see, the config's not going to give me anything that I want, is it? No. But it's worth a try. Let's see what's in there at least. And, oh yeah, over here. And I'm actually going to copy this across, so if it's going to go up in flames, I can watch it go up in flames over here. All right, cool. So the name is, ooh, the name. I wonder, can I use the name? I think I actually can. Name client. Okay, that might work. Externals function should be defined. Okay, I don't know if that's a critical error or not. Process assets. Be frozen, yeah. Yeah, it looks like I really get. Yeah, okay, so the server build completely fails if I try and mix them. So now what I can do, I think, is I'm gonna not give it a file name. Well, I'll have to at some point. All right, I'm not gonna give it a file name, and I'm gonna call it its name. Next, no, server. And I'm going to see if I can try and bundle it into the one runtime. Then I can call its remote entry from the server, because the names are the same. And if the names match, then theoretically, Webpack won't omit it. Haha! All right, but now I need to watch out, make sure I didn't bring along a little extra piece. So I do have next one showing up there, which is discouraging. If I clear this, try once more. I guess I could reassign the name and not call it server, but I wonder what, oh, yeah, what all depends on it being called server inside of Next itself. Probably more than I realize. Yeah. All right, let's just do it. Let's see what happens. So if it is the server, we're going to go config name equals next one. And we're going to call it next one before we even start it again. Just clear it out. I know there's a way to merge this back into the original runtime. And seeing as main.js is actually what initializes the webpack runtime, if I pull the webpack runtime on its own over, it can act as a remote and it'll have everything I want. So I don't really need it, which is helpful, especially in cases like Next where runtime chunk is set to single. Okay, so now I get Next one, but do I get I still get a webpack runtime. And I get Next one that comes out there. It's because I don't have a file name, but I shouldn't need a file name. So there's the common JS one, which is correct. See, requires the webpack. Ooh, requires the webpack runtime. And then it initializes itself in. Yeah, see, it's almost what I want, but it's just not quite there. And I know there's a way to force them together. Next one, and I called the config next one. Let's see, next to. Let me just apply the same kind of thing over here. So if it is the server, the name is going to be next to. And I want to see what the config looks like just before it goes back out. Let's see what the build outputs of these things come out to be. And I know sharing React already is going to make it do all sorts of stuff, but I might just, no, I still want shared to be there, or at least exposes. All right, so the name is next to, and this is the, must be the server build. Yeah. And what's the output on it? Library target is common JS. That's what I'm targeting. And the chunk comes out correctly. The entry is async. I wonder if I could add an entry. Would that even make sense to do? No, it splits them by entry. All right, so then if I look at the runtime chunk, because I know it's going to give it a chunk name of webpack runtime. It's a pity I don't know how to name the chunk here, because then I could merge them back together. Okay. Well, let's just see what we've got. All right. I don't specify a file name. And the file name would typically end up being, but it's actually the file name in this case. There's no like chunk name that I can access. The chunk name is next one. But I could change the runtime chunk. Haha, okay. All right, we're getting a little extreme here, but we don't have too many options to lose out on. So config optimization, a runtime chunk equals next to. Now the question's going to be: does Next know? Like, does Next statically reference the webpack runtime name, or is it dynamically grabbing it off of something else? As long as it's not statically recognized, then I might be able to do something like this. Almost, but not quite. What did I mess up? My schema is not correct. Optimization, probably missing cache groups. Config optimization, split chunks. Yes, split chunks. But let me just run a new build and make sure I actually have the full path correct before wasting time on another bogus build again. Optimization. Yeah, no, that's right. Runtime chunk. And that is on my server, and I am in the server, so let's just look at it again. All right, optimization, config optimization, runtime chunk. Ah, the name. I think that's the trick. But we're gonna see. Okay, well, the build didn't fail yet. Found more than one file as the server's entry point. Cool. But does that mean a problem? If that doesn't mean a problem, I don't care. I can probably reset the name now, but let's see what the server is emitting. Haha, look at that. All right. The HMR issue with module federation, that's not a problem with webpack. It is, give me a second. I just saw it was fixed today, I think, or I was scrolling on my phone and saw it. Who owns the package? What's their name? There we go. So this pull request currently open. We were missing runtime requirement for refresh. So at least I know with React Fast Refresh, allegedly this will help. I don't know if it's merged yet. No, it's not. So yeah, missing runtime requirement. So according to him, if the HMR, it'll throw the HMR issue, but it's not actually a legitimate issue. Apparently, hot reloading still works. Personally, I've seen like once or twice the hot module issue actually be a problem, but it still ran and it still loads. So for me, I'm aware that some users out there are able to replicate it, but if you ignore it, is your app still hot reloading like the other aspects of it? I honestly, I haven't seen it impact me personally, so I'm not entirely sure. But let's see if this works now that I've got. I'm just going to start off with the source because internal server error. Yeah, okay, kind of expected that. Cannot destructure property components. Found more than one file as the server entry point. But see, this is kind of helpful. Optimization of runtime chunk name. And I didn't mess with the single runtime chunk, because that should still be set. Let's go look what else we can pass into runtime chunk. I don't know what the docs are like, but I don't want to dig through the core at this moment. So let's see. Okay, runtime chunk. Okay, but each one, it should just be the same name. There's runtime. So they all should be just webpack runtime by default. And we're targeting the existing library target, and I don't generate another file name. I wonder if I can get rid of this config name thing now. I wonder if there's a child compiler that's applying some subset of these configurations to it. Like they're on-demand entries or something. In the front end, I should still anticipate a failure of some sort. Yeah, that 500 error is the real issue I don't like. Cannot destructure property of components. That's deep in the next server. Okay, so, oh God, now I have to open that. All right, let's take a look at the next server. Okay, packages next. There's no, yeah, packages next. Next server. And what's it complaining? Can't destructure. Okay, property components. And where does this actually come out of? It comes out of the next server. Okay, cool. So it's actually from the next server. That helps a bit. I know this router's been giving me problems as well, trying to do stuff like this, but found more than one file entry point. See, it shouldn't create a second entry point, at least not on the server run. So what if I did something like this and I just said, let's just forget about the client build for now, because clients are usually easier to solve, or I already know how to fix the client problem, so I really don't care about that. It's more the server-side rendering. I want my server-side rendering. So if we can just apply, it there, it's going to be the key. Okay, so if it wants to destructure components, so let's just see what the build looks like if I'm not adding module federation to anything. Yeah, see, I don't actually get any complaints when it's... Do I still get a 500? Aha. Can't resolve that inside of pages. Yeah, of course. Okay, well, that's at least better. And yeah, I'm also using that directly, so it's never going to enjoy that. But if I can just get the render to happen with a different runtime name, that's already a good step. Even on 3000, because 3000 is doing less. Yeah, more than one entry point's been omitted. Very interesting. And I have to give it a name, don't I? I can't use bundle loader either. But that kind of setup is more like, that's kind of what I want. But it's definitely not liking that. I guess this also defeats the purpose of the whole page level cache. And it can't destructure components off of it. All right, let's see what the build is looking like at least. Next one, which is what I've renamed everything to be. So I start off with module exports, and I export this out as next one. And is that actually a problem? Container next. So then it, yeah, well, like that's the boot up sequence. Almost perfectly. It still doesn't want a library name. But at least the runtimes are, yeah, the runtimes are definitely merged together, because yeah, like there's the installed chunk next one coming across, and it looks like everything else that I'm usually looking for is in here. Let's see if I can find exposed title in this, then I know I've merged the runtime. Perfect. Okay, so I merged the runtime chunks together, so that's part of the battle. But I don't know if it's going to be a happy camper with that. So let's see what it would usually look like if I were to just turn off this module federation again. Is this still in next one? Yeah, cool. So if I turn it back off, what's the resulting output of it? So I'm still changing the runtime chunk name to next one. But if they're just looking for a static name like webpack runtime, then yeah, see, okay, yeah. So it sounds like they're looking for something in here. So let's look up, see if they statically code it somewhere. Aha, yeah, look at that. If it is webpack, if it's the server, serverless, otherwise undefined. I don't want to have to do it in serverless mode though, but I will if I have to see it. Yeah, so it actually emits out a webpack runtime.js file, but that's just in their cache loader, so it's not too bad. But aha, the page manifest. Okay, yeah, that's the problem. All right, where does this come from? Build webpack plugins page manifest. Yeah, if it includes webpack, if it doesn't include, and if it ends with JS. Okay, so I might actually be able to pull this off. Something like that. Because then technically it's got webpack runtime in it. It just happens to have its own identifier, which should still merge them together, and it should not create this entry, multiple entry nonsense. Did it error at all? I don't think it did. That's further than I've gotten. I don't think it's gonna work, but oh, look at that. Okay, it works. Oh my god. Wow. Okay, well that's very, very encouraging. And I didn't actually get any legitimate problems. Okay, cool. So that theoretically could solve our server-side rendering challenges. Oh, unless it split it again. Let's see. It probably did split it again. Actually, I don't see a remote coming out here. Optimization name. Oh, well, I also don't have it in running at all, but at least the other side's working. So I really would love to not call it that. I wonder if I can just rename it here. Leave that name alone. Oh, but when I do get the remote, I can rename it in the remote. That actually is helpful. Okay, but let's just start with this setup. And I've also noticed that it doesn't seem to complain on shared anymore. But I know in the browser it's still going to come to a standstill. Well, maybe not now that the runtimes are attached to each other properly. Okay. All right, well, so far I've not crashed. Okay, that's encouraging. All right, let's look at the server. I still have this next one that gets emitted, but I think it could, okay. Okay, so it's hoisting it in there and it still exposes it as that, but that's still a separate file. So I'm gonna make one last addition here. I'm gonna change, I'm gonna delete. Maybe this is old. If it's old, then I at least have an easier bridge. Otherwise, I need to call it that as well. But theoretically, this is the chunk name. So the chunk name should be able to be different from what's like the module export name. You just have to see. Don't see an error. Okay, yeah, so it still emits a remote, but it tries to push it into that. Okay. Okay, yeah, so the name needs to match as well. And now this is either going to bring it back down or it'll work. All right. Well, look at that. Okay. I'm still exporting something out, but I think it's fine. There's my exposed items, so it's behaving like a remote. It's got the get. It's got the sharing registration. It's got a chunk installer. It kind of feels like it overwrote something. I'm happy someone's enjoying this because it does seem pretty dry, but like I said, really can't guarantee what's going to happen in here. I'm just talking, and if anyone wants to ask questions, then ask away. Other than that, I'm just sitting here trying to get this to work for my own sanity's sake. All right, well, the good news is that I've taken the two individual remotes. So usually the remotes are going to spit out their own runtimes. On the server with Next.js, this is more problematic. Two reasons. One, it's omnidirectional, so the server will use its own remote in certain conditions. I'm betting that the condition that Next.js runs under, it needs it. The second problem with this is I don't have a way to actually require it in time. Usually I can stick script on top of the page, but in Next, there's nowhere to stick script in terms of like the server initialization. So what I need is I need the runtime chunk to be the whole complete runtime chunk. And generally I don't use runtime chunk single just because I like to have that standalone remote entry. So the issue I've always had with Next.js has been that I'll get like this 20 line, file of basic, like usually it's just that. It's just this chunk, which was really unhelpful. but it looks like I was able to merge them together, and they still render. So it's definitely a milestone. I'll probably want to write an abstraction or some type of utility to help make this, nicer to work with. So now that I've got this hooked up, and I see that React is not failing, which is a really, really big one for me, because that was another one that killed. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to just use shared again from this object sign. I'm checking if it's the server. And the browser is definitely not going to play nicely, but see if I can get prettier. Run again. Oh, I don't have prettier installed on the top level. I'll let that run in the background. Okay, so now that we're like somewhere better, let's see what happens if I just try to do the dynamic import. Now the browser is still going to fail because I'm only applying the server side, and I'm totally fine with that. I just want to see if it'll work. Oh, but I do need to have some client-side config in there because Next builds everything together. Darn. Okay. So this is going to have to come back out. But it would either way. So that's server specific. The runtime chunk in the browser, I actually want to keep that as well. You should just be able to embed your runtime chunks anywhere. They're not going to initialize your app. They just register stuff. So if I can do that, then let's just put it at the top on both of these. This is dangerously exciting. It might actually work. What a novel idea. What were your thoughts on federating a page or directory of pages? What would the potential be implementation like that? Respects to get, okay, yeah. So I can't show it because it's proprietary. Well, not, I guess proprietary. So here's pretty much what I built at Lululemon. I've been building this kind of Next infrastructure for a while, even though when we started, Module Federation didn't exist, but I knew it would. So what I came out with is kind of this concept of an app shell. So the idea is each page or whatever I have, I'll turn it into a monorepo. And so then each team or like Next instance has its own monorepo. And in there you have like your standard Next.js with some pages and whatever. But then the page itself is just it's like an empty import or it's just a one-liner, and it just goes require .. / at homepage. And, I just import like other workspaces into it. So the reason I do that is because I want the shell per se to be completely empty, or I want to be able to pull as much of it out and abstract it. And so it also forces the engineering teams to ensure that their sub-apps are completely independent of the core system. So they're not dependent on _app from Next.js. So what they have is a little high order component, and inside of the _app in the actual Next.js is I just look for the static abstraction that you would usually put in _app. So by doing that kind of pattern, it means that Next's usual _app always just looks for the component that it's receiving, its page, and the page is always exported out with what do we call it? We call it with app. So it always exports out its data container or provider. So no matter the original concept was, well, it was for Module Federation, but like on the interim, the reason that we built it like that was I designed it so that we could have drag and drop architecture. So the concept is as a team or a company grows, I don't want to refactor anything. I want as little binding as possible, at least at the page level. So using a kind of like a with app or a high order component to abstract it, it still wires it into whatever Next needs to get the get statics, but it's all coming from essentially, another workspace. So how this applies to module federation is, what if that workspace comes from a different host entirely, or a different remote, or a remote? So the same kind of concept would happen. Next would still have _app running in the browser, and instead what it's going to receive is a page with app wrapped around it. And so now, because with app is wrapped around it, when it receives that page, probably through a catch-all, or actually I wounn't even need a catch-all. I could just route it right into the page with the syntax parsing that 5 has. But the idea would be is in the front end, app's just going to receive it, and it dynamically imports the page anyway. So it's just going to receive it and go, oh, okay, here's my static, and it's going to run it, even though that page came from a different Next instance that was deployed somewhere else. And the big rule is nothing goes into _app. _app, I believe, is 4 lines, maybe 5 lines of code, and it doesn't change ever. So anything you need, you have to do it in your own abstraction, and if there's replication, then it goes into a core package, and the core package is on NPM, and that's how we kind of create our platform-like structure around it. But yeah, that's pretty much how I handle getting props and things like that. If we're talking about getting server-side props in module federation, I believe how it already runs is it just uses SSR prepass under the hood. And I know that this build already passes whenever I do I think it passes when I do a static build, but yeah, the same would apply. No, I never do. Let's see, wait, that makes sense, but you'd run into the double deploy scenarios, right? Without module, yeah, if I don't implement module federation, then it's double deploy. Well, it depends. If we're talking about core, then core is already sitting on NPM, so double deploy anyway. If we're talking about the workspaces, then yeah, it's a monorepo. There's only one Next.js instance. And what happens is the pages are just, if I go in here, I would just be importing, I wish I could show you, but I haven't built an example like this, but basically this is team 1, and then I have next app shell, and that's this, and then pages in here is just up and out, and those are just exported out. They don't have Next.js in them, so it's essentially a monolith, but each page, or yeah, pretty much each page, try to keep each page has its own workspace, so it's guaranteed to be decoupled. There's no binding between it. I should drag and drop it, and it should have all the NPM requirements that it needs. And when it's in monorepo world, we let Yarn handle the deduplication as best it can. But yeah, with anything, I mean, in my use case, there's no double deploy because it's a monolithic build that just consists of a few, fewer apps or a couple pages. And, I'll still keep that structure moving forward because the whole concept I've got is really, this is for me, I want it for org structure. So, I don't need each page to have its own micro front end. I need each team to have their own Next.js build. I need them to be able to deploy when they want, to be in control when they want. So for me, that's the angle that I'm approaching this at is, I want team autonomy more than I want, the granularity of, say, pages. Now, things within the pages or other utilities, sure, A/B tests, analytics, tag management, environment configurations, all that it can use module federation for. But I essentially want, even with module federation, I still want the monorepo concept available because it allows me to split teams unlimitedly. It's not just a kind of workaround till I get to the desired result, but it's that's the application architecture that I work with, or that kind of I want to use moving forward forever, because it keeps everything separate, and then module federation just adds another layer of separation on it. If a team gets too big, all they need to do is copy and paste their directory over, hit start, and they're back in production, and that's how it should be, in my opinion, anyway. All right, back to this. Let's see, next configs. Yeah, so this is just me moving things up into the chain. I might still get this error, but we'll see. It's doing okay. Now we get a new stack of errors. Yeah, this looks familiar. Yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. Remote entry. So now this is really encouraging. It means that everything hooked up to the point where I did this. So this is, honestly, this is further than I've gotten. Granted, I spent like 3 hours maybe trying to do this the last time. So, you know, I'm actually putting more effort into it because for me personally, I've gone ahead and set up as much as I can. And my last real big blocker is Next.js. So that's mostly why I'm more focused on it now, is because I've kind of run out of stuff to do. So I really want my module federation on Next, and that's why I'm putting. So I'm actually spending more than a couple hours just messing around with it. Okay, so while we're on this subject, because I'm sure it's going to come up, what about deployments? So yeah, cool. This works real great when I have it on disk. So what happens when we are not on disk? All right, so you got a couple options. One, you can re-artifact it. So re-artifacting is pretty much, let's say everybody builds their micro front ends independently. You can parse the remotes. We're also going to move it to package.json, not at webpack, but just like I'm going to create a utility that you can wrap it in and it'll read it out of your package.json. So the idea is you could put some of these configs up in package.json, and when CI kicks off, the CI could see, okay, here's the remotes that I depend on, or whatever, or any CIs could do that. And they could go, okay, you know, use Kafka's a little bit heavy-handed, but, you know, some webhook interface that pretty much says, you know, so-and-so is updated, and I depend on so-and-so. So then what you could do is you could just have a re-artifact happen. So in Lambda land, this would be a case of go to S3, pull that, you know, team A's compile, just re-zip it, and then tell your Lambda serve from this, you know, zip file and keep going. So it's not really a double deploy. It's more just like you tell the Lambda to start reading from a new artifact. If you're in Kubernetes, then you have shared volumes, and I know Lambdas just came out with shared disks as well. So pretty excited to look into that. The one area that we'll probably have problems with, even if you or however you get your data available, is when you require something, it gets stuck kind of like in the webpack cache, and it also gets stuck in all the module parents. So we still need, like, I would say honestly, just look at a restart pattern. So yeah, cool. Set up your disk, whatever, re-artifacting or whatever, we were also working on streaming where I can literally like fetch chunks, like how the browser would fetch chunks, but I'm doing that inside of Node on the server. So I can actually reach out and go retrieve a chunk from somewhere, you know, from some other backend or from some other server. So I've got, you know, custom Webpack targets that compile for S3. And so as I go Webpack require, it reads it from S3, reads it from CloudFront, reads it from just good old fashioned HTTPS. We could make it stream from a socket, you know, all sorts of things like that. But even with those scenarios, the likelihood is that I'll need to write a hot reloading pattern for the server, because once it's loaded in, even if I delete the module and re-require it, it doesn't necessarily mean that like the thing that required the thing that required the thing that required the thing is going to have that module, because object references are like, you know, a problem. Like, so, you know, that's the one area that I would say, cool, if you use module federation and you're deploying it, look at a restart pattern if you really want to be sure about scope and stuff like that. And that kind of sucks for the server, but I mean, a restart's a lot cheaper than a redeploy or a double deploy, especially because all you're doing is just booting the app again. It'll get evergreen right away. But like I said, like hot reloading was designed for production, and everyone thinks that it's not, but what's not designed for production is hot reloading React. However, that's browsers. But if we're talking about Node.js, hot reloading a production server is technically, you know, fine. Nobody's just attached a listener and actually ran the trigger. So I'll probably try to do something like that and just have the servers hot reload right in production. And then for the browser, you just reload the browser. So that'll keep everything in sync. All right, so let's see. I've got this. I have this now pointing to the new Webpack runtime config. How does everything look over here? I want to make sure my sharing configs are more or less, you know, staying aligned. Yep. Okay. And on the server, yeah, like I said, only want one copy of React. I don't want to import it because it's always an external anyway. Inside the node next build. Let's see what happens here. So now this should mean that the parser picks this up. So it shouldn't complain on this error, but where it might not come. Well, I don't have React DOM, so of course it's going to throw another complaint, but I just want to see if I can get past this one error, because that's really where I've been stuck for quite a while, is the same one. So yeah. But I'm trying to look for next one, and it's not next one anymore. Oh no, but it is next one. Well, I'm mapping it to that. Cannot get exposed title. So we usually see this when you don't load your app in fast enough, and this is likely what we're seeing again here. I don't know if changing that would help, because I attach the remote like that. I don't think I can actually call a remote. Actually, I could. I'm just going over this one more time before I make any more drastic kind of shifts. Okay, let's just try it. Oh, not that. Yeah. But at least I got the double runtime issue fixed. That's useful. Yeah, this is my problem. So if I had an async boundary in here, this would solve like so many issues. Because I don't have anywhere to let the app actually boot itself up, and that's what causes like major problems. So I need an async boundary installed somewhere in Next pipeline in order to make the stuff run correctly. But I'm gonna try something now that I'm like, I've squashed out several other like parallel issues that I was having. I can try something I haven't tried yet. Yeah, so function is not a function. That means that the remote has not loaded yet, but the remote should be there because the remote is packed into it. But the runtime is not always going to be available right away, so I can leave that as next one. Can I leave that as next one? Yeah, I can leave that as next one because that's the global that it'll search for, so it's got it already. Okay, so if I go and do my old hack, I don't even want to do that though. So there's two things. It could be this decrepit dynamic entry Babel magic. So let's see if I console log it what I get. So this could be loadable coming in here. And then I guess while I'm already in their server, let me go ahead and get load components open. Render page, document, there. So see, that's it, require page. So that's probably where I bomb out on that guy. So I'm just gonna try and log it, and it should fail, because it always fails, but we should at least see something new. Hopefully, anyway. If the server makes it that far. I'm on 3.1, and my port's pointed to 3.1, right? Yeah. So is it getting hoisted too high, or did I miss it? No. Module ID in the graph. I wonder if the caching is getting to it. So one thing I find with Next, sometimes the cache gets a little bit messy. And then let's just make sure while I'm in here, let's just go and confirm that I've got the same config sets on both sides. Output library, next1, next2, yeah, the config name is right. I'll call it next2. So let's just call it webpack runtime. So if I pull request next, this should be much easier to like make pretty, but for right now, this will at least make it pass, or it'll get us closer to making it pass. And then in the browser, I want to turn that back on, of course. And then the remote that I'm going to emit outward, I don't actually need I'm in next2, yeah, so I'm going to consume that remote, which comes from there, which has that name, so that should be relatively fine. I've got a singleton, I don't import, which is good. Yeah, okay, so these are more or less aligned. I get nav. Would nav cause an issue with the conflict because I also expose nav? We're gonna try turning it off. I don't actually need to expose it. That was to test something earlier to make sure Next still renders itself when it's exposing part of its own little setup. So I guess at this stage, seeing as we're not getting errors from this anymore, I can go ahead and do this. Just to rule out any React DOM problems. And the client still is a whole different world, but yeah, we can see it. Client doesn't even run here. It's actually interesting. Why doesn't the client run there? Four fours. Oh yeah, because I'm hacking it. All right, well, those are acceptable. Runtime chunk name. Actually, you know what? I don't want to have this happen in the client. So I'm going to put this back in, or I don't think I want to have it happen in the client, because in the client I can just embed the runtimes on their own. I don't have to merge them back into one. I can just stitch the remote entry and go get my own webpack runtimes. So I'm going to reduce one less scope of variability. Okay. Yeah, those don't like each other. Expose title. Now, is this a front-end build? Okay. Okay. Cannot get it in pages, which is normal. So I have my server up to there. Yeah, runtime x2, webpack runtime x2. I don't import them on the servers, that's correct. So it's complaining that the module is not found in a webpack runtime next1. So somewhere in here, I'm still importing it under the wrong name. Yeah. All right, so now this should return me to my function error. Let's just clear these caches to make sure. One nice thing is the new Webpack 5 cache is really quick. I don't know if you guys saw the thing Tobias left, but he had spoken about this. Gave a quick, I think, OpenJS talk or something. This is a little YouTube stream. And he went into some details on the Webpack cache and the speed of it, and it's quite impressive. So It'll definitely make more complex builds run faster. Okay, we get a promise. The promise should reject itself, yeah. Okay, cool, yeah, all right. So this is the issue we run into. All right, so pretty much to explain what's happening here is I get next one, which is not defined, but that's a separate issue, I believe. So in here, you'll see I see a function is not available. So what it's actually running into is, hey Brian, let's see, line 9 and next one. Let me check. Line 9. Yes. Yeah, that's in the right space because over here in document, I'm actually manually loading remote entry. Ooh, but you do have a good point. Oh yeah, well I don't have a remote entry file that even gets emitted on this one, but okay, so let me just go and omit that next one. Okay, yeah, you're right. Thank you. Brian helped me both here and in other places. Okay, cool. So now if I want to weave these together, I've already got the webpack runtimes loaded for them. The runtime's going to have changed. And so in next 2, I need to bring back file name. I could keep it as the original runtime as well. That line next to config supposed to be server as well. So if it is not the server, oh yeah, you're totally right. All right, so if it's the server, I'm gonna leave it as that. I guess I have to leave it as that on both sides. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna start with just leaving them both as they are. Like that. And then I guess I'll omit a second entry here. All right, let's see what this does before I run off and try this next stage. Because then, yeah, I'm gonna need something like this, but I'll need it on. Can I treat it like? Can I use hyphenations for it? Actually, I should be able to. So then it would mean I need to go back into document here. And let's just look in client and see what the client outputs now. Oh, gross. Oh, wait, no. Yay, okay. So static. And I'm going to guess that it probably builds them out differently. Yeah, it does. Actually, it might not. We'll find out. We will find out. Okay, so I can't. Okay, error while find. Okay, yeah, that's okay. So error while finding the exposed title, which always happens. So if either of these apps actually load, I think app 1 might, or the one that I'm just using as a remote, it might load. .404 not found. Okay, yeah, so okay, I need to put it under the static directory. I think I'm overriding it too aggressively. My public path, yeah, my public path won't mess with it. So in here, runtime chunk name. Actually, that shouldn't mess with it unless the output library is. Well, it's not going to do any harm to try it. let's assume I put it under, just copy it in. All right, so if it's not the server, let's try it as next one. No, yeah, that won't matter. Try it as next one. If it is the server, do that, otherwise. And this also usually throws a fit, so we'll set it to eager. And the name is server, then we'll just call it that. Otherwise, I suppose I could keep them as the same name. Could I keep them as the same name? Yeah. But then that would mean I need to change it out. Do I want to actually do all that work? Yeah, I'm not actually sure if I do. So let's see if I can just mess with the server one. I want to see where my runtime goes on the other side, like what's actually impacting it. I could actually clean this all up, put it down in there. I'll do that later. Yeah, so we set the output paths, we set these runtime chunks. All right, cool. And now we're on to the next problem. So if I do anything with shared, like if I pretty much, yeah, if I do anything here and try to make it eager, it'll fall over because I can't actually hold up the execution. So this is back to my original issue. I need an async boundary somewhere. I could try a top level await, but I want to avoid that because that caused me some other issues. Eager true singleton, yeah. Yeah, that one's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go higher into the next core to try and make it work. Cool. Okay, so that spits out more or less what I'm after. And now what I want is I want the client runtime for it. So I've called it that, I call it that. I don't actually emit another file name, so we shall see what it gives to me. Static runtime, webpack runtime, next one. Maybe that's a hot update. Yes, okay, that is a hot update. Perfect. Alright, so that should contain both halves. So if I go into document here, it should be giving me that, and then I need to initialize my remote entry, lower it down, which is what I'm doing here. This is on 3000, yeah, that's right. 3000. Maybe it's not on the right directory. Wait, I'm pointing for, yeah, 3001. Where's webpack? What are you hiding as? Yeah, let's make sure this is actually going to the right spot. Cool. All right, so I hopefully, yeah, I'm in 3001. That should load from 3000. So that should bridge my remote back and bring the other half of webpack with it. And I should be able to hop over here and let's see what other errors I'm going to run into. Yeah. Next one is not defined. And we'll have a look. So call the remote by a different name and then haha. Yeah. So now when I'm in the browser, I need to remap it because I still want to consume it as next one, but I need to map it back to wherever this runtime is. I still have my suspicions as to whether server-side rendering works or not. I suppose I can see in the promise when it next shows up. Yeah, okay, cool. Webpack is not defined. Is that a backend error? Yeah, okay, so it still gets set too soon. Of course, that one is... Oh, of course, can't use hyphens. Not in the browser anyway. Wait, is that the browser? Yeah, of course it is. Guess I tries to export it out. I've seen this be resolved before. We've actually resolved it before. Module exports equals that. So I think if you just set the right library type, it solves it, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. So I'm just going to do the one I know works. And then what is the name? What's the name going to do to it? Yeah, I'll do the same. Is server, leave it alone, otherwise give it a new one. Yeah. I wonder if the server-side render actually, oh no, the server-side render wouldn't work. I'm not actually trying to render anything yet. And I still get rejected promises, so I already know it's not going to handle it. But if we can get rid of some client errors, that'd be a bonus. Oh, this is actually where it is. Oh my gosh. And I think Webpack handles this part then. Yeah, it already knows it's a global type. been a long weekend. Really wish that rejected promise would go away though on the server, because the client side's much easier to make be quiet. Okay, cool. Container missing. All right. Good. So what order are we loading these guys in? But it should route it through as the remote is next one. It's getting exposed as webpack runtime next one. And I should be loading, yeah, I do, because I load the whole where's it next? Yeah, I've got next one on here. It's the JSON P, which just gives me the push function. Ugh. Okay, so then if I'm in browser mode, we're going to change this up a little bit. So we'll see if I can get around the file name. So why does it do that? It's pushing itself in. I guess it's not. No, it should be initializing. Okay, whatever. So if it is not the server, we'll just use that. Otherwise, undefined, and it hopefully will point it back. So then I need to go into document here. Let me look at the compare with same version repo. I'm gonna bring that guy back. Yeah. All right. We got the remote. That's good. The remote's separate now, so oh, well, of course I have Next.to here. I probably also still call it Next.to, don't I? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I guess if I apply this pattern everywhere, object assign is going to be more efficient. I'm going to rewrite this. If I get it to work, I'll actually bother rewriting it into something, you know, worth spending time on. Next one, next one. If it's not the server, so yeah, so if it's the client, undefined, shared, still busted, cool, okay. I don't think I even need to make any consumer changes here. Yeah, you just look for next one. You need to look for next one. So you'll be exposing yourself as on the other end. See, it's really interesting though, because next two it exposes it out correctly, but on next one it's not initializing it in the right order. Okay, I get an object. Good. So now I'm back to my original issue. Container missing, and that comes from function. All right, so the container missing is almost always because, yeah, so the promise here rejects, but now check this out. If I do this, stupid thing works. Window next to get, what am I messing up there? Got my getter pattern. Oh, back to an empty object. Oh, because I'm trying to hit next to, not next one. Boy. All right, there we go. Window next one. And it'll resolve. And it resolves to the function, so thank you. Yes, next one. So yeah. So this is why I need this async boundary so bad, because by the time this thing's attached, webpack's already started to run, and I think I tried preloading it at some point. That didn't help me either. Who's more important? Both of these are. What's the preload syntax? Cool. So now the workaround here, and this is what I use. This is pretty much the same workaround doing Webpack 4. I create kind of like a shim, but I think because I'm preloading, it causes a couple additional problems. And obviously when we get to like hashed files and stuff, we'll have other issues that crop up, but those are a little bit more solvable. Yeah, container missing, but I know the container's there. So yeah, so this is like just Webpack. The omnidirectional setup, it's trying to negotiate, but it's already running. So it can't negotiate, figure out who's what, where, and stitch together. Kind of like when you have a missing chunk on the page or you don't inject a chunk correctly. The chunk's still getting attached while Webpack's already started running. Usually bundle loader is where I'll put this, or this is what async bootstrap is supposed to do. So what I'm going to try and enable here is just make sure it's not anything else. Yeah, error load function. Yeah, so it's just that it's not waiting long enough. Because there's no way to hold up the execution. So now what I will have to do, I could try the new external API that's wired into the remotes. I can use a promise or a URL, but I don't want to guess around with it too much. So what I will be able to do though is, and I'm pretty sure my server's also just complaining as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the server runs into the same. Yeah, it's got the same issue too. There's no way to await it. So what I can do up here is go. What's the syntax for it? Config experiments, and then so last time I tried this, I got even more problems, but let me just make sure I've spelled this right. There's a couple experiments webpack's got in at the moment. Let's just turn them all on. Why not? Let's see what happens. So yeah, import async and top level await. So I know that if Next supports target async node, we'll probably have better luck, because all my server-side rendering stuff uses target async node already to perform these kind of actions on. And then I can obviously get rid of the console log. So worst case, I go back to lazy hydration. That always works. It's just ugly. I really don't like it. Or you could put a poll or something like that in, but they're all not nice. Returned an illegal statement. All right, I definitely don't need all of these. Output module, that's probably what's causing the problem. My targets are incorrect for that. So yeah, the main thing I want is I just want to try a top level await. Ah, there you are. I need that. And I don't even need a top level await this necessarily. I just need a something. So let's try nav. That's definitely not what I wanted. Last time I tried this, it actually worked for nav, but we'll see. See if it crashes it. Well, it's not going to do anything. Yeah. So now see, then I get this export problem. It's not a React component, and that might actually be this guy's fault. I might be able to do that, but yeah, it's happening at the page level. So then this leads me back into this guy, where I need this over here. I either need it on await, and I need to have the interrupt there. Oh, let me try it with serverless. Hold on, before I go crazy here. Yeah. All right, let's put top level on hold for a moment, and let's just bring back this remote title. Expose title will fail. Boo. All right, can't resolve webpack runtime next one. If it is not the server, yeah, it's still undefined. Yeah, wonder if these experiments are messing with it. Oh wait, I'm already not using the right syntax for it. So let's just get it to render again, and then we can come back and feebly try this out. All right, so I'm gonna bring back the legendary hack Webpack next 1. Well, you're definitely a problem. Or are you? Yeah, you're definitely a problem. All right, one last thing before I bring back the hack. It's technically not a hack, it's just not as, I mean, it's just not very nice. It works though. So even when I get an exposed title, I usually have, oh, but it will come out with a default. Oh no, it might come out with a function. That's fine, I can fix a function error much easier. Yeah. All right, so now, here we go. If I do this, it usually works. Bring back lazy hydration. Okay, that is 2 copies of React. So if we go back to here, yeah, no hooks. That should bring it back to life in part. Yeah, the server-side render didn't kick off there though. No, it did not. So under this new syntax, it seems to have cost me my SSR. So what am I doing in this lazy hydrate? Why is it different? Container reference. My scope is always the right scope. I call it that, and then I call it something else. But the remote that I always consume is always an X1, so ooh, that could be it, because I'm changing the scope name in the end. Could it be it? Let's see what it gives me. It's gonna blow up, but let me see what the container actually is. Yeah, JSX. Handle federation. Yeah, so that should go through to the container. There you are, you little bastard. All right. Okay, there. See, that's it. That's my container. And that's interesting, though. Which means the syntax is working better. Maybe. No, it can't be working that good, though. I really doubt it's actually working well. So let's back up one. So what do I send in here? I send in the remote import, and I think I have to send it in a specific way. Oh, I just send it in as a string, of course. So if I do that, what am I doing? There we are. So when I require this, it kind of like gets Webpack requiring it, obviously, but it starts that require procedure, And by the time by the time the catch runs, it usually has it like loaded into the modules directly. But I just want to see if I can get a name out of it. Like, because if that works and it returns the factory, then I can get rid of this giant mess for the most part. And then all I'm left is with is the shared issue. Yeah, container get, but did it reject? Yeah, see, webpack module, the module's not a function. But we all know that it is. Rejected my promise. Yeah, very strange. Actually, you know what I think it could be? It's because I have to load another module to get this. So it gets deferred. Maybe it gets deferred into this container. And now, okay, so if I log container, for some reason now container looks different to me. Oh, maybe it's the scope. The scope should always be next. Let's look it up. See if I have any other type of scope available. Yeah, see, init external. Ooh, can I get hold of init external myself? How trapped in the runtime is it? Oh, that's deep. But I do have access to require I. If that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here. Alright, so if the container returns that, let's just execute the container. I'm missing the initialize share scope though. Let me see, I usually have a copy of it here. Where is my little share scope? There you are. Just maybe. That'll get us over the bump. Just maybe. Doesn't like it. Doesn't like me executing that at all. Webpack init sharing, that's correct. Webpack modules, module ID. Okay, so I must be, maybe I still have a floating require around here. Okay, lazy hydrate. Do I have to lazy hydrate it? Yeah, I do. That's where all the stuff's actually happening. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just getting the remote, which just, it doesn't return what it needs to. Come on now. Container get is not a function. So that is very intriguing. Container get. Handle federation. Which returns something. Oh, it wants next on the end. Oh, wait, it wants the scope. Oh, well, the scope has to be. Does it have to be? Yeah, it does. Unfortunately, SSR is very hard in Next, but it's very easy everywhere else if you have more control over the infrastructure. But seeing as Next wasn't built for module federation, at least yet. Yeah, so you cannot get. Okay, well, that's a improvement. So it's either Next 1 that it's whining about or something new. But what actually changed it? So what all did we change? So we have our sharing, which I was able to add back with the import false. We collapsed it so that there is no runtime, or no secondary runtime omitted. So how would that impact this? Okay, so right now I'm looking for the reference, which is, one half of it, but I can also look for the entry, which is, I think, where it gets consumed. If I remember correctly. And there's my module map. Boy, they did a good job with this. So that's the chunk that I inject, which is, yeah, container entry next one, which is right. Yeah, both those are runtime based. Yeah. Webpack runtime, next entry. Yeah, but this is going to be in this, it's in the other Webpack startup, so I can't, it's absolutely no use to me. So I have to be able to pull it off the reference, but if I'm getting this far, then container probably works again. Oh, but it did have next one on there. Or did I? Well, let's just log it and see what container gives me to start with. If it's a function, then it's getting further. I'll just need to see what the function is. All right, so I get a undefined when I do that. How interesting. And I pass next one into it, yeah. It's still called next one. Well, I don't think it matters what it's called here. It only matters what I consume it as. Which is always an X1. So let's kill import async. Do I want import await? I can try. Actually, we'll turn off all the experiments, because this looks near to what would run usually. Preloads don't matter in this scenario. See, undefined still come through there. So this is definitely a new one. So container is just straight up undefined. But that's also with the scope that I'm trying to run this with. So if I'm not in the browser, let's try webpack runtime scope. Let's see what it gives us then. I don't think that's going to exist though. Yeah. Yeah, that does not exist. It's almost like I wonder if it's because I'm initializing the share scope. If I initialize the share scope, it should get rid of half of this. So, okay, let's pull our share scope back off. Let's start with that. All that could be wrecked as well, but because if my share scope is working now, I'm still stuck with the React issue in the browser when I share it. But at least, oh well, I might still be stuck with it on the server. I might not though. I can try bringing back a hook. That's a new development for sure. So if we don't require anything at all, what am I getting hold of here? Okay, so if I go into my server again, I should be getting webpack runtime next1.js. And if I look for that inside of here, I should actually find it. See, it's right there, but it doesn't boot quick enough, or it's not booting the right way. And see, even on the server, I'm still referencing, you know, container reference next1, which is just returning this require, which is correct. So let's see, I tried to require it already, it failed. If I try it, let's just go try to require it again. Or I want to see what this webpack require, because it looks different this time around. Usually it spits out the little getter and setter, but on this iteration it's giving me a different function. So I didn't quite recognize it. I wonder if it's the whole webpack runtime. It might be, because I have to boot the whole cycle up. But then what does it export? Yeah, nobody cares about that. Yeah, see? Is it giving me a factory? Okay. Hold on, what's in here? It's almost just like it's console logging a normal web. No, it can't be a normal webpack require. It doesn't look like it. Well, that's the function that it's emitting. I still set the scope and everything. Yeah, see, I grabbed the whole runtime. So even with an await, okay, so it's almost connecting me to the actual runtime, like on the other side. And now, what happens if I just pass it a request? Like it might, no, I can't be inside the container get. Could I? Well, there's not much left to lose, so let's do it. Let's see what it gives me. Yeah. Because that looks like the raw webpack require method. Could that be the factory? Yeah, but see, this should be a factory. Cannot find a webpack module. Isn't this interesting? But it wouldn't be called that anymore, would it? It would be scope. I have no idea how that actually works. Why it comes out like that. It's almost like it's like in its own thunk. But I would be able to do this. Of course, I don't see how this is any better than just what I had when I started the stream. So it doesn't really solve what I want it to solve. Well, kinda, because I can at least share stuff now, but I'm still like way off of what I want. Yeah. They don't make it easy, that's for sure. Let's see, we packed it into one runtime. I don't know how that would impact this though. It's an external now, I believe. Installed modules won't help me. I need something that's already loaded into the cache. Next one is just undefined, whatever. Next one slash, what am I even trying to get anymore? There we go, exposed title. I mean, exposed title still exists. Yeah. We haven't done anything to its runtime beyond give it shared. Give it a remote in the right environment. We give it a nav. Yeah, see, this is the same issue that I get up above, and it's all because I'm missing this async boundary. There's just not too many places where I can install one. So renaming the runtime chunk gets us in here a little bit. I guess, yeah, the only thing I can really do now, but if I do that, I'm gonna lose all the niceness. Yeah, there's all that, but if I go in here, and let's try and find it, you know what? It could be that it wants its own remote. Do I have this configured the same? Could that be it? It has its little next to. It's got next to. They're all combined, so I don't know how that could be the issue. It has its own remote. And it's inside of its, yeah, it's inside itself. So, I mean, it should have what it needs. Right in there. It should be bootstrapping itself with the requirements. But let's split it out. All right, we'll give it a remote entry again. If not, then I think I'll probably roll it back and try and reapproach it some other time. Yeah, okay, so that's my lazy hydration. I mean, I didn't really add anything here. It's all the same as before, yeah. Well, at least he still works. Whose remote does he get? Yeah, he gets 3000. He gets his own remote. How does he get his own remote? Oh yeah, because it's a browser build. Man. Tough. Alright, so let's see. If I go back here, let's compare with what I had in my repo. And let's just stage back in that. And let's go here. Let's compare with what I had in my repo. We'll stage this back together. I do not know what I'm going to do with this. I guess I'm going to leave it like that. Yeah, back to next one and next two. Remote entry, get from remote entry. I mean, Go into document while I'm at it. So let's see, where's the last remaining problem? Oh yeah, it's in my client side. So because I can get around it with this giant hack, it's just really ugly. 3001 is my current host, and my current host needs to load after. Yeah, because it's runtime chunk single, I have to load the webpack itself, which I do, and then I have to load the remote entry. Otherwise, if you reverse the order, your runtime chunk just becomes like 1 or something random. So this is just resetting the build configs slightly. I want to keep shared because shared was a major problem earlier. I think in the next stream, I'm gonna try to fiddle around inside of okay, so what's going on in here? So I've got all that. My remotes looks the same. Compare with the same version as before. I mean, no miraculous changes there. How about lazy hydration? What did I mess up in lazy hydration? Yeah. I mean, these are all window scopes, so this doesn't even matter. And let's just make sure the next cache isn't my remaining problem. So now the only real thing that I've got here is some changes to document. These guys are the way they are. And what I'm really trying to get is shared to do its job. And I've changed the runtime chunk, which is still called webpack runtime, so you know that's acceptable. That's acceptable. They shouldn't interfere with each other. All right, now do you server-side render? Please server-side render for me. Okay, cool. I think that does. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's server-side renders. Okay, so we get up to a point, and now let's assume that it's going to break. So if it's server, yes, then shared. A singleton, eager. If I set it to eager, because I mean I can work with this for a couple weeks at least, but if I set them to eager, 1, is everything still all right? And if it is all right, then the next question is, how do I get it to work in the browser? Because I need it to be eager, because I can't do an omnidirectional host with Next itself dependent. And then the problem comes back to load components. It's always coming back to load components. So yeah, I wouldn't have to do any of this if I had one dynamic import between the entry point and myself. It looks like I get a little bit of a flicker there, but I should not be getting one according to my lazy hydration, which will not hydrate it unless it returns. And lazy hydration should be seeking the request if it gets a factory. If SSR only, as I said, if it's hydrated, then it hydrates it. So I don't actually believe that's a legit problem. Props remote, that could be the only thing. I'm not even going to worry about that right now. All right, let's see if I can get a hook to server-side render. I just want to start off with the hook. It doesn't matter if the browser doesn't work. I don't expect it to work right now. I'm really just interested in the view source. They're already eager, so So that should prevent Next at least. All right, that does look encouraging. So I need a isomorphic effect. Oh yeah, that's not what I want. Okay. Okay, so cool. That's good. That's good. Because if I were to go and do this and rebuild it, now my server should crash because 2 copies of React are going to load in from the remotes. Because I have a hook in there. Yeah, there we go. See? All right, cool. So this okay. This is great. Now I have the issues with server side solved. So now they're sharing React between each other on the server. The only problem I need to do now is I need to get them to share React with each other in the client. So I'm going to set them to eager singleton. Their import, I mean, they just have to import. So I'm going to set them like this. Eager true, yeah. Okay, so file name, remote, if it's the server, I go get that. Target async node would really be helpful. Okay, so what usually happens now is just by sharing it, it falls over. So we're going to see if it continues to do that. If you're the server, you're going to do that. Otherwise, you're going to do that. And the same is applying here. If you're the server, do that. Otherwise, do that. And then I seem to still get an error. But that's really weird. If we comment them out again, I just want to confirm because I'm getting mixed results, and it doesn't make it any easier to debug why I'm not able to perform this correctly. Yeah, they're set to eager. I mean, that should be fine. Unless setting it to eager is screwing it up. But I've never seen that. Both get their own remote entry, they come through like that. Yeah, and I get an invalid hook call. Now, was it that my caching didn't work, or was it that this just didn't work to start with? Alright, so let's get rid of the ears, which I guess that makes sense. So then it doesn't try to load it somewhere else where it can't load, but still. not very clear. Of course, I've always been treating it as eager on the other end, so maybe that's been my problem in the browser. I don't import it. I don't. Yeah, so I still end up with the same batch of errors. I have a, yeah, I'm using a hook in there, so that will throw it. And even with them set to import false and singleton true, unless it's a singleton, that also gets in the way. But it shouldn't load two copies, like, it shouldn't load at all, actually. If I'm on the server, which I am. But if I go here and I do that again, it will magically come to life. Don't import it. Make sure it's a singleton. Only apply it when it's a server. Set it back to next one. Next one. Runtime chunk has to be something else. Yeah, but I already know that works. And so my problem area is I want this next one app to just not load React. But I need it shared, I guess. In the next environment, React always has to be there. So maybe I don't. Okay, let's do one last thing. Let's crack open Webpack and actually just go look at Webpack and look at the sharing. I want to see what else I've got access to in this advanced API. Okay, let's get into the container. Where are you? Okay, there's our module federation plugin. We apply our share scopes, share plugin. Import item. Package name. Should be right. Share key will just equal to key. It's the provider, because this thing's providing shared out. So I want to go deeper into the provider and understand the items share scopes. Yeah, they're right. Options share scope. Versions undefined to eager is false. import is set to false. Options provider. Resolved module map matches. Descriptor data, yeah. Can't find a version, then it'll complain. Push a warning. Provide shared modules, okay. Result data is not cacheable. Share key. Okay, adds include. Provide shared dependency. Alright, provide shared dependency. Share scope is default. Provide share module, share scope as. If it comes through as eager. Lots of, yeah, rights. Okay, yeah. So, if I just have it set to false, that looks like not an error, which is good. And then, as soon as I drop a hook in here, it's gonna just whine and know it. But we're not gonna see it complain because, of course, it's in memory. Let's see if localhost 3000 comes to life. So it should, well, it should technically, because I haven't messed with the scope on it. That one might come to life. We'll see. Yeah, it's, yep, okay, so fails. CX on your page. I wonder if it's because I'm trying to do some fancy version stuff here. So if I go back into provide, let's see what the logic is for me to actually use provide. The resolve data, yeah, that's fine. Could it be next resolvers? Maybe. Config version. It's gonna patch the request in. Share key, item scope, item version. So if we were to, they both expected to not have React. And that's from the externals aspect. What happens if we just did this? So what if I don't share anything at all, seeing as there's already, this is going to cause problems though with libraries, if it works at all, which I don't imagine it will. But libraries are not going to enjoy that. And webpack technically shouldn't allow it either. Well, as far as I can tell. Yeah, see, it still tries to pull across its own copy of React. Okay, all right. So, serverless. Should have done this a while ago. Okay, so if we go into serverless mode, then it will bundle everything together. It won't depend on any externals. Except for Next, I think. quite remember. Eager true, single to true, import file. Well, actually, we'll have to import it because it'll be in serverless mode. Yes, I need to be eager. Yes, needed to be. Yes, eager. Yes, and I have to import it. I'm in serverless, so if it's in serverless, it won't be an external, which means that it should be there. Maybe serverless builds are the way to go. I don't know what impact that's going to have on my next outputs, though. I haven't really checked. Okay, well, they kind of come out the same, so that's good. But I get a cross origin error, which is a little different. It's like it's trying to bundle React in. Okay, so if I go into package.json and so React is strictly set. You know, I wonder. I wonder if it's Next itself. I haven't tried this. So Next requires React, which requires other things. So if I point Next back outward. Oh, oops. Import Next, and it should infer the versions automatically. I don't even know if do I even need to use the import Next? Shouldn't have to. But if Next was lazy, we wouldn't be able to initialize it at all, would it? There'd be nothing for webpack to boot. That could work. Maybe. Huzzah, okay. Server, static. Okay, can't find remote entry. And that is for next one. Okay, so next one. There is? Thank you. 29? What do you mean? Replace extra? Oh, 28? Yeah, I think I'm on 28. Let me check. I thought it was on 28. Oh, no, you're right. Okay. Yeah, and if I do like a random npm install or something, then I'm actually going to lock this as well. So we're going to replace that with that. And we're going to do it everywhere. And then I'm going to do one more replacement, and I'm going to get rid of the little quote, whatever it is. Okay. Yeah, next, like, this is all still very experimental, of course, so. And none of this has been tuned for module federation, so I'm just really, really impatient. Yeah, you're right. I did have 27 loaded in there, so we'll see if that helps it at all. But yeah, like, it's just Next is extra weird because it's like a webpack plugin itself, so it's really, really tricky. Like, once it works, it's going to work perfectly, but it's getting it to work that's driving me nuts. There's just so many variations or variables that could come into play here. And I know they're still working on 5 support, so I could be dealing with bugs from like me misconfiguring it, or it could be dealing with just incapabilities of the Next system itself. And so I'm kind of battling through, trying to figure out which side is less correct. Get initial props, invalid call. So let's just copy this. Yeah, the invalid hook call. It means your remote isn't loaded soon enough. Was this happening server side or client side? Also, if you have if you've got a invalid hook call, that's higher up. Yeah, we're all kind of facing a similar set of challenges at the moment, which is we're just not loading it soon enough, which is a problem. Like, if you set it to an external, it'll work. That's what kills me. If I see, Jack actually did this. Let's see what he did. So that's his host, which is probably, let's see the peer. Yep. I don't see a next config in here. Yeah. Okay, so if I go into his host, yeah, maybe I'm looking at the wrong. Am I on the right branch of this project? Oh, he's got a PR open. Let's see. Ha. Yes. But I mean, yeah, until we can, what did he do? Aha. Yeah. But who actually, oh God. Ew. I mean, it'll work, but yeah, see, if you load it in like this, it's gonna do something for you. Also, this is sidecar, but okay, let's just do something for fun, seeing as we face the reality of the problem here. Let's just mess around a little bit. So I'm in serverless mode. How's that helping me? How's that hindering me? Singleton eager. So I mark next as eager. Can only be one next build. Let's see if I can negotiate it like this. But yeah, you're right. If we set it as an external, it'll work. What I'm going to try now is I'll give this one more shot, and then I'm going to do something like more fun, which is I'm going to use a promise on the externals itself, because externals accepts an API, accepts like a script and promises and stuff. I have it somewhere. I committed it to something, so I can go dig it off one of my PRs. And then we could actually just resolve it. Yeah, okay, cool. And Next also has a whole bunch of stuff under the hood that it does for like resolutions. So, all right, what we can do is this. And then I don't need to do this WP5 plugin thing anymore. That was fixed. And that can just be plugin config push. All right, so this could work. I had another idea that I kind of abandoned, but it's sounding more appetizing. So firstly, like, we can't always re-export it. It's just super gimmicky. But here's my thinking, is if I did something like that. So let's just say if this is not the server, we'll apply it. Wait, what's it complaining about? Oh, okay, so I am already applying it if it's not the server. And how can I get past the reactor? I kind of can. Oh, yeah, you're right. All right, so the other idea that I had for this kind of stuff is we could do something like this, and we could kind of like get it on the scope. But there are fancier ways to do it. Let's just see. So this is on, if it's not the server is going to be the thing that crashes first. So if we apply it to the server, I just want to see what it does. I haven't played with this much in the real world. But we can do the same thing for remotes as well. Inside of here, I think you go like import, what's the syntax for it? Be like a React. And then I think you attach a script type somehow. I'd have to look in the externals. Where's webpack? So he's got it in here for like a promise. Remote runtime, no. Where is this? Yeah, so script type, if the script, yes, script type we have. Now I know he's applied it to other things. Because I ripped this promise from somewhere in webpack. Let me see if I can track it down, because if I can find that, I can go and track. Yeah, so check this out. So I can create a promise like that, and then I can also import external. I can also create one like that. These are async externals. And I want to see if we have got Yeah, I think if you use import instead of promise, it'll take a URL with a request on the end of it. But before we get into that, let's just try this and do something like it's going to completely blow up, but that is next one, so cd next. Actually, let's do this in next two because I already have a debugger there. And yeah. Oh yeah, I do that stupid thing. There we go. It's not runtime. What this is supposed to do is, because that same syntax, I should be able to apply it to the import. I'm not 100% sure how the format looks. I think it's with the space, the same as we have here, but I've never actually used it. But in theory, we can apply the same kind of concept here and have it load the remote load itself. Try to import async module. Okay. Haha, look at that. Okay, there's test and document. Okay. So what do we want to put there? What do you think is going to work? Let's try this. Because see, even if we could do something like that, if Webpack is smart enough to hold up the entire app from even trying to start and just drop a script on the page, we can work around it. Assuming I can apply it to the remotes themselves. Did not like that. It expects React to return with, I guess, the actual code. Oh, this could be fun. Okay, so if it's on the server, we have more options here. So let's try this. And then because what I could do is I could attach, could I attach the share scope into this and then run everything through its own remote? So it's promised like it has to resolve itself through its own remote. That would be cool. But it all depends on when this promise actually happens. So let's see what this spits out. It's gonna be long. But if it wants code, there's no reason I can't just feed it the React code itself. I don't think that it compiled successfully. Tried to import an async module with import export experiments. Oh, okay. Yay. Progress. Import async. I have import async set to true. Oh, it's this one that's complaining. That's the one that actually needs it, but we're gonna see. Haha. All right. So this is, oh my God. Okay, so this is almost like doing a like library or async target async node. So if I go fs.read file, what's it going to expect? It's going to expect a string. Yeah, this is already a string. Is it? We're going to find out. fs.read file. Resolve. Says that this is not a constructor. Read file sync. Let's see what the text is. Because I could just eval it. But either way, it looks like we're still ending up in the same, like whatever route we're trying, we're kind of ending up in the same area. But at least we can run a function, so on the client side we could actually differentiate where we are. That would let us say oh, of course, it's come back to buffer. ToString, I think that's it. Because even with this horrible workaround, if we solve this in the server, then solving it in the client, you could just do this, more or less. Like the same kind of concept. But you use Module Federation's low-level API. You tell it to look for it inside of itself and figure it out. But it would have to already be loaded, I think. Okay. Okay, so then I don't know if I can resolve a file like a string like that, but I should be able to. Maybe. Yeah, it wants module compile. It wants that whole thing. It wants it to like module export it out. Okay, so if that's the case, what did Jack do to resolve this in the node, on the node side? He just has config externals. Okay. So then I guess config externals, we're just going to say wait, what's the actual right way to phrase that? Okay, so let's do it like this, and then that'll solve it on the server, and then on the client it's the remote that's being a little. So in our remote, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell that React is equal to let's see, window.get will I have anybody in share scope? Maybe. No, because I don't even set them on the other end. Or do I? Is 3000 run yet? Yeah, I don't think they can access their own remotes. Ah, darn. But yeah, you could do something similar to this setup, and but you'd probably still need a third build or something extra hacky to get around the bridging issue between them, or a way to hold them up. Boo. Yeah, that's a pretty disappointing issue. Because I can't even share this, can I? Not even on the front end. Yeah, if I do it on the front end, it just falls over anyway. Only way would be to expose it to itself. But I don't know if it works asynchronously. Like, we can give it a shot. Exposes, so we're gonna do the re-export of React itself. Oh man, I don't know if that's gonna work though. Because then I'm saying that I'm importing something that's an external, that's a promise, that's importing it from itself. I'd have to get it from the other end, like I do with this. So I would have to do this. Yeah, I'd have to. Yeah, but see, that's still not even the right one. It's boo. Yeah, it's not gonna work like that either. Cool. Well, this has been fun and annoying, but I'm gonna sign off for the night. And yeah, well, at least we got a little closer. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like I said, it's really boring. Bye-bye.